Okay, you're watching Co-op for Two. I'm Jesse Reichler. We're broadcasting live from Champaign, Illinois on October 16th, 2021 at around 11 p.m. We are continuing our playthrough of Dune House Secrets. So last night I played the prologue in chapter 1, and I talked for quite a long time after that game about my initial impressions, which weren't super positive. But I thought, let's try to go into this fresh and play chapter 2. We'll see. We'll finish it out, and then we'll give our final thoughts. This is full of spoilers, so if you plan to play this game, you can leave now, and you could always come back and watch it after you play if you want someone to talk to about the game. If there is anyone in the chat, you could let me know now whether the audio and video is coming through okay, and I'll just wait a minute for that. If there's anyone here, if not, we'll just take our chances. Anyone in the chat? Oh, Jonathan is back. Audio is good. Okay. Jonathan, are you going to stay for all of chapter 2, you think? Do you have the stamina? I don't envy you having to sit through this. Okay. Let's start. We've got 2 things to do. First of all, we've got 2 experience to add to our characters. And then I want to tell you a little bit about what I took a couple minutes to write up. Let's start by giving ourselves experience. Now, I thought about this a bit. I definitely think we need to progress on this smuggler track to get more spice. We have no spice token, so this would get us more spice, 2 more, and prepare the way to having unlimited spice, which we can turn into unlimited subterfuge. So for sure, I want to spend 1 of the 2 getting this spice token upgrade. So I'm just going to put this on Gora Malik the Smuggler, even though I don't think it matters who we put it on. So now we actually have access to 3 spice tokens if we need them. Jonathan, you were the one saying we need spice. I mean, that's perfect. And I'm really hoping we'll at least end the next mission with 2 XP to gain this. Now, what we do with our other XP is a little more tricky. We only have 1 water and we only have 1 subterfuge. We could spend 1 and get 2 subterfuge. That's awfully tempting. But we're about to gain an unlimited amount of subterfuge on the 3rd chapter. Sorry, not by this, but by getting this and then changing them. That's our 1 power. We can change 2 into 1 subterfuge. And then what happens if we need water? So I was thinking we would go with this. An ability to exchange 1 resource token. It would just give us an ability, since we don't know whether we're going to need water or subterfuge or even weapons. This gives us some freedom, and I feel like with these 3 spice, we may have enough tokens to go around, but maybe of the wrong type. So I'm going to go with haggling. It has the benefit of, for cheap, we can get another wild card. So I feel like this is going to give us the flexibility we need. I'm going to put it on this card just so I don't have to keep this Javed card visible since he has no powers. I'm just going to put it on this person. I don't think it matters much. All right, so that's our 2 XP spent. I hope that was the right decision. It's a little, like, it's tempting to go all for time because time is so tight in this game. But we do have 1 spare time, and it's pretty expensive, so I'm happy with that. Hopefully we won't regret it. Okay, now, 2 more things to do. We have to remember to open this pre-order little, it looks like they're clues, like you get bonus clues if you pre-order the game. But before we do that, I want to show you what I wrote up before today's game. One of the things we suffered from yesterday was my note-taking left much to be desired, much like in real life note-taking. I've gotten better at it with some games, but with this game it was hard to get motivated, and there were so many names, and I'm doing it live, so I don't want to waste too much time taking notes. So, but I do feel like we suffered a little bit with all the names we didn't know. So what I did is I went and wrote up little index cards for all the key players and cartels. So I put a little note about the Damasu cartel. That's the woman who is the matriarch. That's her card, portrait card, and some more details. And then when I've got some information here, like the woman with the opulite, I wrote down what card it's from. So I did that with a couple of these. I did this with the other cartel, where we got some information from. Here's our mysterious prisoner. So Alex Kane was the name he was referred to by. Let's see, what's a better card like this? Alex Kane, and then there's his other names that he went by. We think he's another Adam. What file we learned some of that from, and so on. There's the right-hand man of Scorpion, Kamar Masat. Samit, the other guy that came with us from Zarzur that keeps popping up. There's Adam Sorko, who was killed. His little brother Morris, where we learned he wanted to exchange the prisoner for something mysterious. We don't know what, maybe to get his brother back. There's Junis, the sister. She was engaged to Rojas. She seems pretty, her motives seem pretty good. Her friend is Kayla Lane, 115. There's her portrait card R. Duran was the guy who was in the warehouse dying, that they were torturing. Here's Glosu Raban that we sort of got confused about, and he was one of the Harkonnen. He's the brutish brother, and he's ruling over the governor of Sorko. Then we had several references to Mentat Thufir Hawat, but we weren't tracking that information very well. And I went back and looked at the cards and tried to take better notes about him. So he used to work with the Atreides for Duke Leto, but after the fall of the House Atreides, he started working for the Harkonnen, maybe. But then also it said one of our cards that he might have been recruited the mercenaries. So this guy might actually be not such a bad guy, like, you know, working for the Harkonnen because he has to, but really trying to help House Atreides. Then we had the mysterious Atreides medic that we know treated people, but we couldn't find him. We were told he lives in Tel Gazar, but we didn't locate him in chapter 2. Then we just got a card on Scorpion. We overheard him talking about wanting to find the weapons cache, which makes sense because we know our escaped prisoner had radiation poisoning. They make a big point of that in several places. So I'm thinking he worked in some nuclear type weapons arsenal, and that's what they're trying to find, and that's why they're trying to recover him. We know that he went to school also with Adam Sorko. We don't know his true identity, though. Okay, Scorpion, he's looking, he's like the big guy, the dangerous guy in this area. And then we've got our mercenary, who we did learn the identity of on card 119. He was Taiwu Danik, the scarred mercenary guy. We have his portrait, and we learned a little bit more about him. We know he was hired by Adam Sorko to bring the prisoner home. We know the HSF, the Harkonnens, are hunting for him. And we know that he used to work for the Atreides, we learned. So these were things we all learned, but maybe we were starting to overlook them. And then we got another card, 119, that was saying that he might have been recruited by that Mentat Thufir Hawat. And he doesn't like the Harkonnens. Okay, so let's keep this card set updated when we learn new information. And I've got new cards if we need to add it. And obviously a big part of these games is keeping good notes, and in the past I've kept some on Google Docs. This seems like a little more appropriate for this live stream. But hopefully that will help us not get so lost. Okay, and now we need to open this, and let's do this in the right order. First we're going to read this, then we're going to watch the intro together, and then we'll read the case introduction. So far so good, everyone on board? We don't get any new tokens. We're going to reset this track. And let's remember that we have these extra tokens and abilities when we need them. So let's start by opening this. So these came in the pre-order, and they seem like they're little extra clues. So let's see what we've got here. They're organized by character, the 4 characters we take. Destroy what people love, and they will rise. Read before you start chapter. I see. These are all. I was looking at the back. So he told us, destroy what people love and they will rise. And Daniel Arias tells us, shields can provide a powerful defense. Some people in moments of foolish confidence tend to lower their guard when they shouldn't. Okay? These don't really seem like clues. They seem like advice. Those from Getty Prime suffer on Arrakis and need treatment. Is Getty Prime the planet that he got his radiation poisoning from? Okay, and this is Gora Malik. She tells us, Scorpion finds pleasure in watching the brutal sport of dogfighting. Okay, not really super helpful. I do remember there was a dogfighting ring in Tel Gezer. It was right here, but you can't go to that from this map, so we'll have to get a card for that, and I don't know if we want to go anywhere near where Scorpion is anyway. All right, let's listen to the introduction together. So it feels a little, I mean, so far we haven't started the game yet, but I feel a little more not as overwhelmed with this now that everything's been organized, the table's been organized. Just feels a little more orderly. Oh, here's another thing I did. Here are the cards we have full access to. Here are the cards we only have partial access to. And I just wrote down which cards those were that we only have partial access to, just so we won't forget. And I'll keep these with that. It just makes it a little easier to not forget which ones we have partial access to. Okay. So let's go to the introduction to chapter 2. And we'll listen to it together. website looks like it's acting up a little bit. Okay, I'm not sure why that needed to be a video, since it's pure text. Maybe they plan to make full animations for some of these and never got around to it. So we were given one piece of probably useless information, but since we have these cards, let's make use of them. We were told the real name of Scorpion. That's, I believe, the first time we were told. So let's let me go back to that if I can. Balance of cartels. Okay, Jaqen Rizal is his name. Don't think that's going to be important for us, but we'll write it down anyway. All right. Let's read our introduction now. I do feel a lot more comforted by having these cards with all of those names. So here's a suggestion to the designers. You've got these cards, right? These asset cards that that are given out that have portraits of people, right? Like when we met someone, we got a portrait. Well, here's a different idea. You got a game with a million different names that are odd and unusual, and some people have 3 names, like they're part of the Damasu family, but their name is Chorus, whatever. How about having index-sized cards instead of these tiny assets? Just make them the size of the normal cards. Have the person's name, face, some information about them. Would that not solve 99% of this problem of trying to remember people's names? In fact, go one step further. Give a little index card that's got their face, their name, and a place to write notes. These companies love having pieces that get destroyed so that you can't pass them around, so that someone else has to buy the game new. There's a perfect solution. When you meet someone, you draw a card, an index card, that's got their face, their name, and a place for the players to write notes. How elegant, simple, clean would that solve a huge number of problems of being overwhelmed with crazy names? And you're still relying on people to make notes and add their notes to it. Maybe even a little place for like where you met this person, so you could write down the card number that they came from. Seems like a no-brainer to me. All right, let's read this introduction to chapter 2. The sand slices and whips against your face as you climb the rocky slope overlooking Tel Gezer. The wind is picking up and you don't have much time. The sun will reach its zenith soon, and getting down to the city will be torture. Zarzura awaits you at the edge of the cliff. We're here to assure your privacy, she says. Our privacy. she says, staring at the peaks of the shield wall far on the horizon. There is every indication that Scorpion is one of Glossu Raban's most trusted associates and probably answers to him, not Governor Sorko. Indeed, we did find out that that was the case, that Scorpion is answering to Raban. Zarzur turns and looks at you silently for a minute, as if to give the moment proper significance. Due to the brutal suppression of the Mekhala settlement and the persecution of the Tel Gezer civilian population, the leadership of the resistance sentences Scorpion to death. He must know that he dies at the hands of the free Fremen. Find out about Scorpion's habits, his schedule, learn where he activates his shield, where he goes without his bodyguards, where he lives, if he has a lover. Follow his every step and determine how and when we execute him. Zarzur reaches out her hand. A small bat sits in her palm and lets out several squeaks. One more thing. Samet is in the city. He's trying to locate the runaway from the camp. If I'm not mistaken, the runaway knows something about the secret Atreides arsenal. He can't end up in Harkonnen hands. Your debt is nearly paid, adds Zarzur as you walk away. I trust you. Yahya Shauda. Okay, so they've said things we know already, but she said the rebel Fremen have sentenced Scorpion to death. Jonathan says, we solved the crime, now we plot one. Yes, okay, that's a little satisfying. We're going to get this guy killed. But we have to find out where he hangs out. We have to trace him, stake him out, find out where he can be captured and killed. And she doesn't want him just killed. He must know that he dies at the hands of the Free Fremen. Okay. And Samet's trying to track down our runaway prisoner. And she says what we concluded at the end of chapter 1, which was that the runaway prisoner knows something about a secret arsenal, weapons arsenal, that the Atreides probably hid on Arrakis. Okay. Here are our goals for Chapter 2. Choose a location for Scorpion's execution. That's a weird way of phrasing it. Choose a location. It sounded like really our job was to find out where we could snatch him from. Additionally, find data on Akel and Da'anek's whereabouts. Okay, who is Akel? Here's a question for you. Who is Akel? I've made my notes. We don't know who that is. Am I forgetting something? We know who Da'anek is. That's Tyrell Da'anek, the mercenary. Is Akel the guy under the false name? The prisoner? A.K.A. Alex Kane, Atreides, Adam, Damned Adam, Cassius, Martyr. Like, that's none of the names that have been used for him. It's weird that it's saying find data on Akel without telling us who Akel is. Did I miss something? Okay, let's pretend that the game has told us you've heard a rumor about someone named Akel. Find out about that person. Okay, put the time track on 11 again, just like it was before. The game tells us we always move this on the far left to 4. And we've got special rules. In this chapter, you are instructed to read specific cards. Looking at the front of the cards, the map fragments is free, but flipping them to follow their encounters has a cost of 1 time as normal. So it says we read these 3 cards and we can see the front of them for free, so we don't have to move time. Notice you could see on the previous chapters it said here are encounters that are available, whereas this one is just telling us go grab these and read them. So we're going to do that. Or something else I was going to remind us of. I've forgotten. All right, let's go. Oh, I was going to say, we were assigned in this mission to track down Scorpion, and now this thing makes a little more sense, right? The one that said here, Scorpion finds pleasure in watching the brutal sport of dogfighting. So maybe that's a clue about where we'll find him, where is a good place to snatch him. All right, let's go get these cards out. I put the cards from chapter 1 in the prologue that we weren't allowed to look at away into the box. So these are all chapter 2 and 3. In fact, we could even... There's chapter 3. So maybe we put this aside. So here's all of the chapter 2 potential cards. All right, so let's get 206, 209. There's 206, 209, and 211. Okay, let's take a look at these together. Okay, so what are they? They're map fragments of Tel Gezer. This one's highlighting the HSF headquarters. This one's highlighting the Black Tomb. This one's highlighting the gallery. Those are all available on our main map. Here's the gallery. The Black Tomb is here. HSF headquarters. Well, HSF station is here. Must be that. I'm not sure how. I guess these match the map. Oh, here's HSF headquarters. Okay, so I don't quite. It's hard to see how this map matches this map. Doesn't quite look like it does. But not important for us. Okay, so if we want to check, these have writing on the bottom that says check the potential for carrying out an attack in Ward 7. So this looks like this is us reconning these locations to see if they're appropriate for us to capture Scorpion in these locations. Turning these, the rules tell us, so we're still in Tel Gezer, the rules tell us that if we want to flip this and look at the other side, we have to pay a time for it. And in fact, these are the only clues we start with. These are the only encounters available to us. So there's nothing else for us to do but pick one of these to start with. Any reason we should prefer one over the other? Well, let's just take a look at the dog fighting. The dog fighting is near the Black Tomb. So that might be a reason to start there. And look, the resistance, the resistance is right near there. They've got some base. So that's a tempting reason to try to catch him in the Black Tomb if we've got a base here. So I guess maybe we'll start there. Unless someone has a better idea. Should we make, is there anything else? Like this is it. These are the only available encounters, these 3 cards. Alright, well let's start at the Black Tomb then. I have no other reason to start. There's no real good reason to start anywhere. HSF headquarters would be bold. Danik is the Merc. That's right. Jonathan asks. Danik is the Merc. That's exactly right. Tylu Danik is our Merc. He's the guy who's escorting the prisoner. So Akel may be the prisoner. It's the first time we've heard that name, I believe. So I don't know if that's a mistake in the game to tell us a name that, or if it's a mistake on our part that we would have learned his true name somehow. Okay. Yeah, I don't feel like we should be walking right into headquarters of Harkonnens until we have to. Let's go to this black tomb. Okay, I'm flipping it over. Let's read it together. Maybe when we do, I guess we don't need this anymore. Maybe for our top down, let's leave this out. Okay. Let's read this together. And let's move our time track down. All right, I've moved the time track down. Ward 9 is in the horrifying southernmost part of the city, overlooked by the infamous Black Tomb, the HSF's prison complex. The structure is daunting, and it is said that the biggest part is hidden underground as part of the dungeons carved deep within the bedrock. The Black Tomb is home to all the prisoners from Tel Gezer. It's where the deserters and resistance fighters are tortured, and where Scorpion personally carries out brutal interrogations and punishment of the most valuable prisoners. He appears a few times a month during the executions at the Torment Ground. Each time, the HSF pressures all citizens to gather and witness the Harkonnens' power and the convicts' agony. The families of the tortured and murdered prisoners forced to watch this spectacle are traumatized forever. The day before the execution, they have one last chance to see the convicts. After that, they are left with only the nightmares and memories they cannot erase. It's easy to overlook the resistance of the Red Karak in the shadow of the Black Tomb. Karak, a doctor from Getty Prime, lives in a modest stone building, but he himself is one of the most exceptional and influential figures in Tel Gezer. Karak has 2 homes in the city, but his practice in Ward 9 is where he admits his most important patients. Once a week, accompanied by several guards, Scorpion shows up at Karak's and undergoes a 2-hour treatment, during which, reportedly unconscious, he imbibes mysterious medications prepared in Karak's laboratory. After the treatment, Scorpion always attends the late-night dogfights on the hills west of the Black Tomb. It's a brutal spectacle that reminds him of the gladiatorial combat on Getty Prime. He's usually there for a few hours, accompanied by his most trusted confidants and friends as they revel in the butchery. Okay, take the asset, and we've got 3 new cards. All right, so let's start a new card. That sounds like that may be our doctor that is working, that is friendly to us. So let's write down the doctor's name. Red Koruk. He's the doctor. We found him on card 209B. It says he has 2 homes. That's sort of important because we'd like to go talk to him. And he treats Scorpion. In fact, Scorpion's unconscious during that. That sounds useful to us. Prepared in Karak's laboratory, so we could maybe poison them, but she said she wanted him to know that he was killed by the resistance, so I'm not sure poisoning is going to be satisfying. Okay, and we got an asset in. Is that going to be our doctor? These are the ones we already have access to. Here are the new ones. So let's get out N. Okay, N is not a doctor. What is it? That's the Black Tomb, I guess. The underground prison. All right. I'll put that in our pile. And we've got some new cards, which presumably are map fragments. 204. Another map fragment. 212. Another map fragment. And 217, another map fragment. All right, it's not just a map fragment, is it though? It's like an attack plan. So we can learn more about the dogfights. We can go to the doctor's practice. Or talk to the prisoner's family was this one. This one was blackmail corrupts assistant to find out more about the treatments. That costs a water. We only have one. Or flip this card for a time. Alright, so we've got 3 new cards available to us. And this one we finished reading. We saw both sides of that one. All right, well, we've got some choices here now. We can also check for a potential attack in the gallery. Or check for a potential attack on HSF headquarters. That just seems like a patently bad idea. So I think we rule that one out for now. But do we want to... Yeah, that was the Black Tomb, that one. So now I ask you, should we go deep or wide? Should we go deep into the Black Tomb attack, which seems very... that does seem like a reasonable place to attack. We've got multiple ways. He's unconscious with the doctor. We want to talk to the doctor anyway. So I do like that avenue. But the question is, do we want to check out the other possible places before we before we dig deeper into one? I mean, I'm inclined to give ourselves the time to go down this path. This just seems like the most logical place to attack, near the resistance, near the dogfights, although we're told that he comes with his confidants to the dogfight. But maybe he goes to the medical place. Here's another reason why that medical thing is, in addition to having the benefit of the doctor, we've got this mystery of the potions that he's injected with. Like, it might be nice to find that out. So let's go deep into this area of attack. Let's pursue the Black Tomb stuff. Although, trying to kill someone at a prison yard where there's obviously lots of guards and stuff, maybe that's not the smartest, but okay. So, among the 3 places at the Black Tomb, we now have to decide between these. We could spend water already and try to blackmail the assistant to find out about the treatments. Talk to the prisoners' families. That doesn't seem like it's going to help us much. This is a weird card. Let's look at this for a second and try to understand what's happening here. This card says if we flip this over, we talk to the prisoner's family, but it's also, it looks like, a plan of attack. Like it's suggesting that we catch him in the pass office. road for prison transports. So I'm not entirely sure. And here's the other one. Here's the 3 cards that we just got. Like, I'm not entirely sure whether this is totally well, it's not, this one's not unrelated. This is Blackmail the Assistant. But I'm not sure if the game is going to be like, at the end of this mission, is it going to tell us to pick one of these cards as our attack? That's what I'm not sure about. Like, if these maps have other meaning that we're going to have to decide on. But, okay, so learn more about the dogfights, talk to the assistant, talk to the prisoner's family. Any idea? Like, this is the medical thing is the one that that I feel best about. But as far as a way to catch him, even though he spends his time at the dogfight and we got that hint, I'm hesitant to try to catch him at the dogfight if it's a public place with all his confidants. But are we ready to spend a water so soon? It would be our last water, except for the fact that we can do a one-time conversion of another token into a water. So we actually do have 2 conversions. I feel like I'm ready to try this chapter 2 a little differently and just like drill down. Like, I want to know about this medical thing. On the other hand, is this the most efficient way to do this? To spend a water token to find out more about the treatments? Or might we find a different way? I think we're going to do this. Jonathan might be suggesting we do the dog fights. We did get a little informant information about the dog fights. I'm just dead set on this. So we're going to do this one. We're going to spend our water, which is our last water, except maybe we can transfer something. This could be a terrible mistake, but I'm very curious about this doctor. Okay. Let's read this. Red Karak admits only Harkonnens into his practice. He's a specialist for diseases typical for inhabitants of Gedi Prime. It is rumored that a portrait of Baron Harkonnen hangs prominently in his practice, and Karak complains to every patient about how the Atreides, despite their short rule, managed to disturb the perfect social order on Arrakis. Scorpion is so happy with this service that he funded Karak's son's tuition fee in the military academy. Every few weeks, Karak's practice is stocked by a special medication transport from Gedi Prime. There's so much that even the doctor himself wouldn't notice a shortage. The locals gladly make use of this abundance. You catch one of his assistants sneaking out with a handful of flasks filled with a mysterious liquid, and you blackmail him. If he brings you Scorpion's medical files, you won't rat him out. The man eagerly agrees, and a few hours later, you have your hands on Scorpion's medical records. So we can now do 212 on the app to examine his medical records. All right, let's do it when it says it. If it wanted us to read it at the end, it put it at the end. So I'm going to take this away from you, and we're going to listen to 212. So do you think this is the doctor that helped our mercenary and is just pretending to be a Harkonnen fan? Or is this a different doctor? That's the question I have for you. All right, let's go to the laptop. We've got film book 212. You can hear the audio. Let's watch this together. Those videos are a little odd how long they stay on one. The doctor that helped. Oh, that's possible. That's Jonathan says the doctor that helped may be Akel. So maybe Akel isn't our prisoner, but is the doctor's name. All right, I wanted to write down any information for there. First of all, I made a card for Getty Prime. That's the place with polluted air that our prisoner may have worked on. Also here, I'm going to make a little note for, I'm going to make a note on Scorpion's card. So he gets 1.5 hour a week treatment. And his medicine prepped no earlier than 24 hours. Whether that's significant or not, I don't know. Maybe that means if they run out of medicine, he's going to have a hard time breathing. Right, what was his symptoms? Diseases brought on by immunocompromised, trouble breathing, suffered from attenuation. Just going to write down trouble breathing in case we can harm him somehow that way. All right, well, that didn't really help us that much, to be honest. In fact, it didn't help us much at all. But let's see if the rest of this card helps us. The assistant sells you more information. Not long ago, Scorpion asked Karuk about the symptoms of radiation sickness. The assistant thought it was strange because he was certain he wasn't suffering from any of the symptoms. After that, they talked about a nuclear arsenal. So yeah, that's our prisoner worked at some nuclear plant. You also find out that Scorpion spends more than an hour during his visit inside a special decontamination chamber, which is prepared by the doctor a day in advance. Karuk selects the medical substances by himself. Using his machine requires appropriate knowledge and expertise. While in the chamber, Scorpion is unconscious, or at least unaware of his surroundings. During the treatment, a dozen of the HSF soldiers secure the practice in all directions. Okay, well, that's kind of important to know. I thought he might be sneaking in alone, sort of shamefully skulking in for his treatment, but no, he's got a dozen HSF soldiers. Well, that would make it quite hard for us to be there at the time. But if everything is prepared 24 hours in advance, we could booby trap it and then be long gone. All right. We paid, but we didn't spend our time. So that's now we've spent our time. All right, well, we can learn about the dogfights, which I think we should do. Or we could give up. It feels a little bit to me. Have you guys ever played the Hitman games? There's a series, they're PC but also console games called Hitman. And they're pretty phenomenal. But they're all about, like, on each mission you have to assassinate a target. And you're sort of sneaking around in disguises, mostly stealthily. It's mostly a game about stealth and disguise. But for each mission, you can kill your target in a dozen different ways. Like, you can poison them, you can push them off the roof if no one's around. Like, you're trying to get to them when no one else is looking. So you often create little diversions or little things that need their attention. and then when you get them alone, you kill them, or you put on a disguise to get access to a room. It feels to me like that's what we're dealing with on this mission. Like maybe we could kill him in any of these different locations, assuming we set it up correctly. So which actually is interesting. If you look at our map of Tel Gezer, notice the dogfights in the Black Tomb and Red Karak are all in Ward 9. And then we got clues about the HSF headquarters. That's Ward 7, right? Which is, this card is Ward 7. We can investigate. And then Ward 2 is all in the gallery. That's what this card is about. Ward 2. And we already, right, there's Ward 9, the one we are currently looking at. So maybe you could kill him in either, one option is you can kill him in any of these wards. And you should just pick one and try to do it. The other possibility is that we have to figure out which of these wards we can kill him in, and we can only kill him in one of them. So what we do is heavily dependent on whether you believe that we can kill him in any of these wards if we get enough information and choose our details right, or whether there's only one ward we can kill him in. Either way, I think the best way of resolving that is dogfights. Like, we've got many things pointing us towards the dogfights. So let's do that next. Yeah. Okay. Learn more about the dogfights. So we're going to pay a time and flip this over and read it. Okay. Scorpion's bodyguards don't have access to the area, but they patrol the outside. This private gallery is where Scorpion... I was trying to see if this... Is this the gallery card? No, it's the dogfights. Okay, this private gallery is where Scorpion leads his own political games, hidden from inquisitive ears in a soundproof field. The dogfights not only attract Scorpion and his friends, but also local smugglers, wealthy merchants, and Harkonnen soldiers. A few months ago, the stands were packed solid every night, but some of the regulars stopped coming when Scorpion began attending. This doesn't sit well with Andrei Skura, the arena boss, especially since he must also share his profits from illegal bets with the HSF leader. It is rumored that the entrance to the area, or better seats in the stands, can be bought directly from him for a good price paid in water. Uh-oh. That's how he minimizes the loss caused by Scorpion's attendance. The only Fremen you see here are those collecting the remains of defeated dogs. After asking around, someone nearby says they frequently see a Fremen with black hair and an aquiline nose seated at the top of the stands. That's going to be Summit, our friend. Some people call him Summit, and he's usually seen speaking with members of the Damasu cartel. Damasu are not our friend. Is it possible? Like, we've seen Summit in a couple places that jumped out to us as odd. Is it possible he's not really working for... He's a double agent and is not really working for us, not helping us out? You also come to discover someone is pulling the strings behind the cartel, and that the Damasu takes orders from someone important who arrived in Arrakis with the Atreides more than a year ago. This holdover, Desmea, is supposedly linked to her son, who's being held hostage by the Harkonnens. Nevertheless, some people refuse to believe that Desmea would ever let anyone control her, even if her family was in danger. Scorpion has his own place in the gallery, from where he watches the fights. He also holds unofficial meetings throughout the evenings with merchants asking for help, small-time criminals requesting pardon, or local artists wanting to ingratiate themselves with the person in power. A chance to meet Scorpion costs a significant amount of spice, but it gets easier from there. All that's left to do is stand in the queue and hope to reach the gallery before Scorpion gets bored of the begging and brutally leaves the area. Alright, so this card about the dog fights, which are here, also mentions the gallery a lot, which is a little confusing. Let's look at this card again. So let's make notes on our cards. We've got a little bit more information here. So first of all, Summit is seen at dogfights. And speaks with Damasu cartel, which is suspicious to us. 217B, because if you remember, according to my notes, the Damasu cartel hunts Atreides. They hate the Atreides family, so I don't know why he's messing with them. Okay. And also, this gives us more information about the Damasu cartel that we should write down. So, card 217B tells us that someone controlling cartel who arrived Arrakis 1 year ago, and they threaten Desmaya's son. Desmaya is the matriarch. Desmaya Koris is the matriarch of the Damasu cartel. Okay, well, I've written that down. Now, this is giving us information about Scorpion and his gallery. One thing jumped out that was scary, though, is that you could get seats in the stands by paying water. That doesn't thrill me, since we have no water tokens. We could trade for one, but we'd rather not. And then it was saying that we could get a meeting with Scorpion by paying spice. All right. Well, we've looked at 3 cards. That card didn't give us any more additional encounters, so we're still stuck with these 3 that we have. We can go to the gallery, or we can talk to the prisoner's family. I suppose you could argue that if we're going to still catch him at the Black Tomb, then we could talk to the prisoner's family. But it seems to me that if we follow this chain of ideas, then the next place to go is the gallery. Jonathan says, the head of the Damasu cartel's son and Governor Sorko's son are both being held hostage. Well, Governor Sorko's son, for sure, is being held hostage by Raban, as sort of, he's holding all the royal families' sons as collateral. And I think it's probably a safe bet that the Damasu cartel's son is also in that category, but not guaranteed. But I think, Although that card says that the person who's got the leverage over her is someone who came with the came to Araxis a year ago with the Atreides. So that's maybe not Ravan. All right, I suggest we go to read more about the gallery. Follow this chain of logic. All right, I'm spending the time. Let's see what we've got here. For the last few months, Scorpion has visited Ward 2 almost every day. After a few hours in Ward 9 at the HSF headquarters, he goes to the El Rud 9 Military Academy in the eastern part of Ward 2. The academy is full of modern, spacious buildings, metaglass windows, and a stony gate secured with a shield, an entrance that admits only those with the proper credentials. Its splendor and richness are the manifestations of Harkonnen power. The academy is Scorpion's most cherished undertaking. He feels at home there. His bodyguards stay in the ground car and are forbidden to enter the academy as Scorpion strolls among the training rooms in solitude. Some days he even trains the cadets himself. Out of all the wards of Tel Gezer, Ward 2 is the one most affected by the rule of House Harkonnen. It's constantly redeveloped and more time-honored buildings are destroyed every day. Next to the military academy is a construction site for an art gallery, another of Harkonnen's demonstrational projects. The building is almost finished and various exhibits and artwork are brought in daily. The loud inauguration attended by Governor Sorko and the upper crust of Tel Gezer is set to take place in a few days. Meanwhile, the Owl Market, the pride of Ward 2, is shrinking every week. This market made the area famous. Merchants traveled from across Arrakis to sell their goods, and trade flourished from dawn till dusk until the market's nightlife lit up Tel Gezer. Now the stalls close one by one. The merchants have been forced to leave. After his visits to the military academy, Scorpion strolls through the stalls and indicates to his people which is the next to close. Soon only memories of the Owl Market will remain. Take the asset and get some more map cards. All right, well, let's take our asset, I. Okay. So here is I, the academy. Do we think this is? It's either the out market. It looks like it's the academy to me. Maybe we need cards for our different locations. It seems like maybe these cards are our candidate locations. So I'm just going to write these out. We've got the Black Tomb. And then the Academy. And the Black Tomb was asset N, and the Academy with a question mark is asset I. And this one we found on card 211B. And the Black Tomb was card 209, it looks like. Yes, 209. 209. All right, we'll keep these nearby. These look like possible places we could attack. And I still am getting the feeling that the game is going to let us pick any of these and maybe tell us a story depending on which one we pick. All right. Let's get these new cards that come out. 202, 205, and 215. Okay, 202. There's 202. Here's 205. Here's 215. Okay, what are we looking at here? 202 is the El Rood 9 Military Academy. We can survey their security. 205 is check the art gallery for information. 215 is visiting the owl market. So these are all places where our guy Scorpion walks through. And these diagrams are us like making notes about his route. This really does feel like that Hitman game. All right, did we remember to advance our time? We've looked at these cards. We've looked at 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, okay. All right. Well, did one of these... Now it feels like... it's a little weird now. Because we went down one of these rabbit holes regarding the Black Tomb and the dog fights. And that was like, oh, there's this doctor. And it seemed like it was telling us this would be a good way to kill this guy. But then it didn't give us more leads to follow to get more information about that attack, right? It's just like pointed us to a different direction about the gallery. We got his medical records, but no other clues. Let me read this card again, the first card we looked at about the Black Tomb. It's home to all prisoners. The families of the tortured and murdered prisoners watch the spectacle. They're traumatized. It's easy to overlook the residents of Red Karuk in the shadow of the Black Tomb. Okay. He's a doctor from Getty Prime. He lives in a modest stone building, but he himself is one of the most exceptional and influential figures. His practice is where he admits his things. Scorpion always attends the late-night dogfights. So, like, we went down this path of learning about the doctor and stuff, but then there was no more information for that. Is that because the game at the end is just going to ask us, is this how you want to try to kill him? And we don't have to know any other information? Surely not. All right, let's look at our mission goals again. Let's not forget what we're here for. Choose a location for Scorpion's execution. Find data on Akel and Da'anek's whereabouts. Okay, so we also want to find information about the mercenary and the guy. All right, I'm going to make a proposal. Open up the last top sector. So Jonathan says, is Da'anek hiding in one of these locations? Do we run into them and complete the second objective? I think maybe we should open up the last top sector. We'll have most choices then. The top sector, do you mean the HSF headquarters one? Ward 7 up here is what you're saying? All right. So these are all These are information about near the gallery, which we have been pointed to for more details of how to catch him. These we already opened up. Okay. Let's do what you say. Let's go to the headquarters. And then I think I want to go to the prisoners' families, because that's one that is related to this area. And I want to make sure we fully investigate this area as much as we can, because I'm curious about the doctor. He seems like he's a specialist in radiation treatment and stuff. So like he worked on Getty Prime. So he seems like a natural person that the mercenary would go to. And we know that there's a doctor. In fact, were we told explicitly earlier that the doctor they went to had 2 residences? Like now we were told this doctor has 2 residences. But no, we were just told he lives in Tel Gazar. His identity is unknown. I just want to look at this again. 106B. I want to look at the information about this doctor from our chapter 1. I want to see if we've got any information about this or if I'm reading too much into it. What's the doctor's name? Do they work in the hospital? I've heard he's a former Atreides medic freed after the massacre. I don't know why he didn't notify the HSF about the incident. Yeah, that's not very useful. And that's the doctor that treated Genick. I'm not sure. It was a different card. It was a different card that led us to mention of the doctor treating the mercenary. But I know what card that was. It was when we spoke to Natural Kin. 101. Let me just look at this card for a second. They must be hiding in Tel Gazar. One of them was coughing. The one with the scar, they told us to look. Maybe he didn't go to the doctor. I thought we were told he did go to the doctor. Maybe our mercenaries didn't go to the doctor. Did I just imagine that? Here they are when they came in. One guy was coughing and injured, so I assumed he went to the doctor. This doesn't say he went to the doctor, though. All right, let's put this back. All right, let's start by going to the headquarters so that we go to all the main places that were available to us up front. But then I want to talk to the prisoners. Jonathan says, if I currently had to guess where Donek might be hiding, it would be the Owl District. Lots of abandoned buildings. Still think should explore headquarters first. All right, let's go explore headquarters. It doesn't even say headquarters. It says explore Ward 7, which borders on the Owl Market. So regardless, we're going to go in here. So I'm going to advance the time. We're going to turn over this card. Let's see what we got. Ward 7 is the HSF's command center. It's also the location of Scorpion's general headquarters, as well as the primary landing pad for military ornithopters. The traffic is heavy in the ward. The army ground cars fill the streets and soldiers crowd to nearby taverns and brothels. If you show up here wearing HSF uniforms, blending in is child's play. Most of Damasu's brothels are located in this ward, along with a blooming spice and drug trade. The HSF soldiers feel like the masters of Tel Gazar in Ward 7. It's their territory. The Truth of the Sands Casino is the most popular sport in the ward. It's the perfect place for soldiers to squander their pay every night, playing dice and cards. This is where they talk about the Atreides who is wanted by the HSF and brag that it's only a matter of time before he's brought to Rizal on a silver platter. There are many other taverns and gambling dens in the ward, each filled with drunken soldiers. By morning, many of them end up under military arrest. But the most mysterious place is called the Golden Cage, a brothel for the wealthiest citizens of Tel Gezer, which is visited regularly by Scorpion himself. Every morning, Scorpion returns to his general headquarters, a massive building surrounded by a wall 3 meters high. His armored ground car is followed by his bodyguards in 2 separate vehicles. Scorpion is accompanied by Rakim Stair, his assistant and personal guard, and spends 2 to 3 hours here. He gives orders to his deputy, Kamar Masat, and then moves on to Ward 2 and its military academy, the apple of the Harkonnen's eye. All right, so something jumps out at me reading this card. First, I'm going to write down the name of this new person we've heard about, which is Rakim Stair. Which we're learning about on card 206B. It wants us to take asset M, and now we're given more map cards to choose from. Okay, here's asset M, which is every morning Scorpion returns to his general headquarters, a massive building surrounded by a wall. Okay, so let's get another location card here. This is Scorpion headquarters. HQ, which is asset M. Okay, so one thing that I've noticed in these cards, we've now got 3 locations that we could try to catch him at. One thing that jumps out at me is it's giving us timelines, right? So let me finish reading what Rakim Stair is. Like, it's telling us where he goes first and then next. Like, that feels like it might be significant to me. Rakim Stair is assistant and personal guard to Scorpion. Okay, let's look at our 3 locations for a second. Scorpion headquarters. We should write down what card this came out in 206B. Let me write down where our other cards came from. Military Academy is 202B. Sorry, we didn't look at those. Where's the ones we did look at here? That's 206. Okay. The Academy, which is we learned about in 211B. And then where did we get? Where's our other one? N. N we learned about in 209B. Okay, so I want to look at the timeline. This says every morning returns here, then goes to the Academy. Every morning he returns to his general headquarters, then moves on to Ward 2 Academy. Okay. Now, if we look at the Academy card, which is 211B, see if there's a timeline here. He visits Ward 2 every day. After a few hours in Ward 9 at HSF headquarters, he goes to the military. So it's again telling us first he starts every day in his headquarters. Now he comes to the Academy. Okay. It's cherished place. It's telling us there's a construction site for the art gallery, the owl market. After he visits the Academy, Scorpion strolls to the market. After Academy, he goes to Owl Market. Okay. And now if we look at the tomb, when does he go to the tomb? It's home to the prisoners. Only once a week does Scorpion go here. After the treatment, he goes to the dogfight. Alright, so you see though that there's real sequence timing information given us here. You're there for a few hours. Okay, so once a week he goes to the Black Tomb, then he goes to the dogfight. He starts out his day at his headquarters, then he goes to the Academy. From the Academy, he goes to the Owl Market. I don't know when he's going to his treatment. It doesn't say where he's coming from. All right. I do like where this is going, though, this timeline thing. VR says, just woke up and wanted to say hello from Thailand. Well, hello, V. You shouldn't be watching this if you haven't watched part 1 or if you plan to play. Just to double check, did you move the time forward for Ward 7? I think I did. Let me see. It's 4 cards, 5 cards we've looked at from 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So yes, it's moved ahead, but we are running low on time. All right, so I want to change gears a little bit. I'm liking, it's jumping out to me as being significant that this game is giving us timeline information. So on all of these cards. Every morning he starts at his headquarters, then he goes to the Academy. After the Academy, he goes to the market. Then we lose him because we haven't investigated the market. So I think we go to the market and see if we can get information of where he's traveling, if that's correct. If that, did we get out all of these cards yet? Or did we just take the headquarters? I don't think we got these cards. 203, 210, 218. No, we didn't get these out yet. All right, let's take a look at what cards are brought out here. 203, enter the casino and ask about Scorpion. 210 says, survey the Harkonnen Security Forces headquarters. 218, survey the security protocols of the Golden Gate. This is really feeling like a Hitman type thing where we could try to catch him in any of these places. of all the places to catch him, this headquarters is least appealing to me. So let's just put these here, though. We've got lots of options open to us now to look at. The ones that I still feel best about are the market, so we can track down his timeline, and the prisoners, because that's again by the Black Tomb, and I really want to like thoroughly investigate that area. So of these two, the market or the prisoner's family, does anyone have a preference? Oh, does it? Jonathan says, going to the casino also does say to ask about the wanted Atreides. Let's reread that, because we are tasked with finding those people. Okay, let's see. The Truth of Sands Casino is the most popular spot. That's where they talk about the Atreides who is wanted by the HSF and brag that it's only a matter of time before he's brought to Rizal. Okay, you're right. They do talk about the Atreides. What's our mission? Find data on Akel and Daanek's whereabouts. Go with the market. Yeah, let's go to the market. You've got a point there that they're talking about the Atreides, but there's no suggestion that people there know where he is, but they might. You're right. Okay, we're going to 2:15. So we're moving the time down and one more. We're turning over this card. And we've got some interesting information. Scorpion is present in the owl market every 2 or 3 days. He strolls between the stalls, protected by at least 6 Harkonnen soldiers. More soldiers wait in the ground car on the main street, but they would need at least a few minutes to come to Scorpion's aid in case of an attack. The market is crowded all day. Am I showing you this? No. Sorry. The market is crowded all day, and the densely constructed stalls create a labyrinth that is difficult to navigate. The tense atmosphere of the market is worsened by the desperate merchants whose stalls were destroyed when Scorpion and Sorko required space for the construction machinery to gain access to the art gallery's building site. If an attack happens here, the outcome is difficult to foresee. You can probably count on the support of the merchants who are ill-intentioned toward the HSF, but you must also take into account that the soldiers won't hesitate to kill random passersby to open the fastest route for Scorpion's escape. You also see other soldiers, House Sorko guards here and there. They approach the stalls asking about the governor's daughter. She's supposedly been seen around, but all the merchants respond that they've never encountered her in the market. When Junice Sorko didn't show up for her brother's funeral and ran away from the estate to revolt against her family, she gained favor among the people. She can count on their help and secrecy. Instead, both merchants and buyers eagerly gossip about Tylu Da'anek, a known mercenary who used to serve House Atreides. It's said that he carried out the famous attack on the prisoner convoy near the Mahala settlement. Some say his name with respect, others with fear and contempt. So we can meet with the displeased merchants by drawing a consequence test, or we can track Junice, or we can track Junice by drawing a consequence. Okay, well, I mean, I'm inclined to do these tests, to do this, but we don't have to decide now. Only for flipping cards do you have to decide right away. They're talking about a mercenary who we want to locate, so it makes sense that maybe we could talk to them. Junice could have information as well. But that did not give us timeline information, huh? He goes to the owl market every 2 to 3 days. just says if there's an attack here, it has some pros and cons. Maybe by doing one of these, we would learn about his timeline. I think we should do one of these. I think we should do our first test and talk to the displeased merchants, who are angry at Scorpion. Maybe they'll give us some information on him. It also said you ask about the Atreides on the part of the card where it describes flipping it. The casino card. Yes, you're absolutely right. It says, enter the casino to ask about Scorpion and the Atreides wanted by the HSF. You've got a great point. All right, you convinced me that if our assignment is to find out about their whereabouts, and this is the one card we have that asks about them, we should definitely do this card. I also want to do this. So I'm going to do this first. Then we'll go to the casino. So meet the displeased merchants. We're going to draw from our box, our bag here. 2 out of 5 are successes. Okay. Okay, that's a fail. Our consequence goes down. It goes back in the bag. Doesn't really matter to us. Okay, and that gives us access to card 214. It's nice to get a card that's not a map card. All right, let's read 214. Let's remember that we still haven't done this other one. 214 says, 3 merchants wait for you in the shadow of a spice paper store and invite you inside. You head to the storeroom in the back. Sarouche, Maziar, and Reza get down to business right away. Scorpion's people destroyed their stalls, stole their goods, and raised chaos on the streets, all by his order. The merchants want to get rid of him just like everyone in Tel Gezer. They have information and resources they can help you. They have one condition. Scorpion cannot die in this ward. The Harkonnens will immediately start searching for the culprits, and the merchants won't allow that. It's bad for business. They probably wouldn't have plucked up the courage to oppose the HSF if it wasn't for Junis Sorko. When she turned her back on her own father, she inspired many unconvinced citizens of Tel Gezer. Some merchants gladly helped her hide from the soldiers, or who knows, maybe she just bedeviled them. She was allegedly trained by those Bene Gesserit witches. Oh, we got a Bene Gesserit, our first mention of the Bene Gesserit. Even their teachings won't be of much help with her sickness, though. Junis is supposedly losing her sight. Soon she won't be able to see the Harkonnens stealing the power from her father. Maybe if she was from Gedi Prime, Red Karuk, the Harkonnen doctor, would help her. He was brought to Tel Gezer by order of Scorpion. He lives in Ward 9. The merchants know about him because he buys the ingredients for his medicines from Maziar. Okay, we got a little bit of connection. Jonathan says the extra time skill. Yeah, we may use ours, but we've got an interesting connection now. Now the merchants are offering to help us. We found one of the merchants who gives medicine to the doctor. And he's offering to help us. All right, it tells us to flip this card. Did we... It's so hard to remember to go down on the time track. Did we go down? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then this would be 7. 7, yeah. It's interesting that at the end of that last mission, it didn't tell us to get anything, any card. Remember when we finished the prologue, it told us to start chapter 1 with a card. It didn't tell us to start with anything for chapter 2, did it? I sure hope not. All right, let's flip this card. This guy's going to help us. Ooh, look at this. Scorpion comes from Getty Prime as well, so he's poisoned by the filthy air of the planet. To function on Arrakis, he must regularly visit a doctor who can treat the Harkonnen diseases. The merchants can grant you access to their storage unit containing chemical and medical substances. They don't want to know what you'll do with it, but you know the terms. Ward 2 must be unharmed. Mazer gives you the keys to the storage unit where he keeps the ingredients required to produce medicine and instructs you how to get there. Gain access to the storage unit. And we get 2 subterfuge tokens. Well, that's nice. Now, this card says gain access to the storage unit. I'm assuming that's just going to be something that the game is going to ask us at the end. Did we gain access to it? Or another card is going to ask us. Or it's just thematically giving us these 2 things and saying thematically this represents access to the storage unit. I'm not sure. I'm really nervous thinking about if the end of chapter 1 told us to start the mission chapter 2 with something. I'm going to have to assume that it didn't. Okay, they gave us mostly information about the doctor that we already had, but they're the ones telling us don't make it happen in Ward 2, right? So there are only 3 wards we have options, we think. There so far 2, 9, and 7. Everything is pointing us to doing it where the doctor is and the Black Tomb. 7 is still an option. We've got a bunch of cards about that. And some tempting ways to kill him with the construction area, whatever. But we've just got access to the chemicals to kill him. I almost feel like we've got enough to kill him, but we don't know what the end of the game is going to want from us. All right. We agreed before we were going to go to the casino to learn about the Atreides. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to go to the casino by dropping down in time and turning over the casino and see if we can learn a little bit more. But there's 2 other places I want to go. I still want to talk to the prisoners who might know the whereabouts. The prisoners' families, they may be friendly. And the other one was tracking Junus. She seems like she might have some information for us if she's sort of on our side. So we're running out of time, but let's go to the casino first. Okay, I dropped this down in time, right? It's crazy how many times I have to recount this. Like there's not a better way to do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this would be 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, okay. Here we go. Oh, this is perfect. All right, Jonathan, yeah, your keen eyes on this casino card have helped us out. The truth of the Sands Casino is crowded with Harkonnen soldiers. They spend Solaris and spice on gambling, drinks, and drugs. What makes it easy for the casino's workers to easily gain and sell the secrets discussed by soldiers, which makes it easy for the casino workers to easily gain and sell the secrets discussed by soldiers under the influence. Over the last few days, soldiers have been eagerly talking about Martyr Akel, a runaway who's being pursued by every unit in Tel Gezer. Some of the soldiers have extra information about him, even a portrait. Okay, well, now this helps us a bit because Martyr was one of the names. Sorry, I'm just going to get this so you don't read ahead of me. Martyr was one of the names that the guy referred to the prisoner by when he was talking about all the different names of Alex Kane, aka Adam, Cassius, but Martyr was another one. So now we think we know his name, or at least one of the aliases he goes by, which is Martyr Akel. Martyr Akel. I'm going to write down what card that name came from. Okay. Martyr Akel. And we've got now a portrait of him, which we already had. The game says that sometimes you're going to be told to get a portrait that you already have. I was going to say we already have one of him from something else. So you gain the same portrait that we happen to get a different way. So that's Martyr Akel. No information about him. But we have now gathered some information that we've been looking for. Let's see what else it says. The soldiers have no idea who he is, but they suspect he's someone important if he's wanted by Scorpion himself. What they do know is that the runaway is being helped by Tyloo Da'anek, which we already knew, who allegedly worked for someone from the Atreides court, but returned to mercenary work after the Harkonnens regained power. The rumor is that Da'anek is renowned for exceptional efficiency, but the soldiers are certain that Scorpion surpasses him even in that respect. I think that the Atreides that he worked with is that Mentat that is now working with the Harkonnen, but is really secretly still loyal to the Atreides family. That guy's name was where's Mentat Thufir Hawat. Okay. Some of them also enthusiastically share that a space liner from Getty Prime recently landed at the Carthage spaceport. It supposedly carried an important member from the Baron's inner circle. After landing, they flew directly to Tel Gezer in ornithopters. Well, that's interesting. An important member from the Baron's inner circle. So we don't know who that is unless it's a Raban. Okay, now it tells us to learn about the history of Getty Prime. So let's do that, 203. All right, we're making progress here. I wonder, Jonathan says, I wonder if we would have gotten something to start with if we investigated Junis at the end of Mission 1. Did we not investigate her? All the more reason for us to follow her next, then. All right. Let's go look at 203, Getty Prime. Yeah, let's go so you can see it too.
Getty Prime, with its capital city, Barony, is the homeworld of House Harkonnen. The planet is mostly covered with volcanic wastelands. The only remaining forests are preserved to be logged and exported. The planet is highly industrialized, with countless mines, factories, and refineries. Due to air pollution and the limited sunlight reaching the planet's surface, many of its inhabitants suffer from various diseases. On Getty Prime, gladiator fights are the most common entertainment. Slavery is legal. And the Harkonnens emphasize the military and industrial development of their oppressed population.
Okay, not really useful, but some fun background. And now we know that's the home planet of the Harkonnen. Um, all right, let's read the rest of this. So someone, I suppose maybe we should write down. Let's create a new card for the mystery person that is Mystery Harkonnen from Getty Prime. Right, that's what we're told, that someone flew in. A space liner from Getty Prime recently landed. It carried an important member of the Baron's inner circle. Okay, so I've made a note of that. Let's continue with this card. The soldiers also comment loudly on the fact that Scorpion is almost always using his shield. He deactivates it only when he feels absolutely safe. Moreover, his trusted assistant, Rakim Stern, never leaves his side, but there are suggestions that Rakim's loyalty is fragile ever since Scorpion bought that slave girl. The soldiers think that she's been on Rakim's mind too much lately. So we could try to find out who landed. We could take advantage of Rakim Stern's weakness. Well, that's a little tough. It sort of depends on whether we think we have to do all of these little pieces for the one assassination attempt, or if this represents a different way to assassinate him, which is the way I'm leaning. I'm leaning more towards the idea that, like, if you wanted to attack him when he was in public, then maybe you'd do this to disable his shield. But if you're really trying to attack him when he's getting his treatment, then you would go a different way. And I almost feel like we've done enough to kill him at his medical treatment. So I almost feel like we don't need to do this, but now we could try to... Jonathan asked, where did it mention him first? Well, we learned about Rakim on an earlier card. We learned that he was his, thanks to our notes. We learned on 206B that he's with his trustee. Scorpion is accompanied by Rakim Stir, his assistant and personal guard, on 206B. So I'm going to update this card to say we also learned about him on 203B. So, but now we're told, okay, so I see your question was probably like, is that where he's going to be with a place we're going to try to attack him? That's in Ward 7. Ward 7 is where he hangs out with Rakim Stir. So if we wanted to attack and kill him in Ward 7, then I think it would make sense that we would follow up this and try to make him vulnerable when he's with Rakim. But since I think our plan is going to be to kill him in his medical treatment, then it makes sense that we don't have to worry about Rakim. That's my thinking. If we have spare time, maybe we do it, we'd work on this, but otherwise I don't think so. A separate question is whether we want to find out who's landing in Carthage. It's not relevant to our mission goals. But it is something I'm curious about. I wonder if it's Raban, though. I feel like we're going to find out eventually anyway. So these aren't at the top of my priority list. But in fact, the only one that's at the top of my priorities, and I'm not sure if it's silly, is this other place down in this ward where I think I want to carry out the attack. So I think I'd like to do this. All right, so we're going to do this. We're passing position 3, which we're told is the game is asking us, telling us we should probably work out our guesses, because the game could end at any minute. Choose a location. So if we had to choose a location now, we're going to choose that doctor's office because we have access to the medicine to poison it. Find data on a Kalandanik's whereabouts. Well, the casino gave us some information, but did we find out anything about their whereabouts? Not really, right? But if any card is going to give us information on their whereabouts, it's not going to be this. It's either going to be Junus or it's going to be here, prisoner family, I think. So I think we use our remaining two times to go through those two things. I mean, we may have to use our bonus if we open up new leads. So let me just count my things again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're already spending one for this, I guess. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I guess we already spent this. So we're here turning over this card. Okay, here we go. All right, well, now we're in a tricky situation where we need a water token and we don't have it. But we can generate it if we need to. Let's see what we got. Every day, the prison is a chasm of countless personal tragedies for the citizens of Tel Gezer as they beg for permission to see their relatives imprisoned in the Black Tomb. The executions are pure chaos. Harkonnen soldiers brutally suppress the crowd as Scorpion's assistant, Rakim Stern, reads out the verdicts. The sentenced prisoners are hanged on death tripods. Among them are always several members of the local resistance. Tel Gezer citizens who revolt against the corrupt rule of Governor Sorko, a weak man under the thumb of the Harkonnens. Apparently, Scorpion himself doesn't always appear at the executions, but if he does grace them with his presence, it's always only momentarily. This is when the prison is at its most secure. Some of the people who gather around the executions say that the Caladan man wanted by the HSF is hiding somewhere in Tel Gezer. He's allegedly being aided by a mercenary who worked for someone important in the Atreides court before the house fell to ruin. Some say that he's incredibly well trained, and they are probably right considering that the HSF hasn't caught him yet. Others mentioned that about a year ago, no one would have thought that the Sorkos and the Genniks would be at war with one another. Before the fall of Atreides, both families lived in peace. It's speculated that someone is influencing the events of the city, someone way higher in the hierarchy than Scorpion or even Glossu Raban himself. Few lucky claimants receive passes that allow them to meet prisoners. Only family members stand any chance, and even then they are often left with nothing. Gaining access to the Black Tomb won't get you any closer to Scorpion anyway. Wow, okay. We don't have to decide this yet. That did give us a little more information. That did give us a little information about the people we're hunting for, but not much. But it did tease something else. It said someone else is pulling strings. Someone higher up than even Glossu Raban. Now, we've got a reason to wonder who it is just flew in on the Starliner. Because I was thinking it's Raban. But now this card is teasing the idea that it's someone even higher than Raban, that we don't know who it is. Is it the Baron? Or someone else that might be important for us to know? So now we've got some tough decisions. Now we've got a reason to try to find out who got on that Starliner, got off the Starliner. We've got two choices here that are a little bit hard to, like, one is watch the execution. I don't know what we would gain from that. It seems like an illogical one for us to do. But then find members of the resistance, which needs a water token. So we can trade, we can use our power to trade one of these in for a water token. But that's costly. And Jonathan asks a good question. Do we need resistance members if we already have access to the medicine? Like, have we found the way to kill him, and do we not need another way? Yeah, I'm inclined to not pursue either of these if we don't have enough time. But I now am much more curious about that Starliner. So let's look at what clues we still have available to us. We've got both of these. We've got this one. Find out who landed at the Carthag spaceport. We've got this one, take advantage of Rakim Stern's weakness, which I don't think we want to do. We've got this one to track Junus, which I am inclined to do because we, especially if Jonathan's remembering correctly that we didn't track her at the end of chapter 1. And then we've also got, we've got 2 time left with 1 bonus if we have to. But then we've also got these other locations that we could look for an attack plan in. One is the art gallery. One is the academy security. One is the protocols at the Golden Cage. And one is the Harkonnen at the headquarters. Now the Golden Cage, okay, so all of these are in Ward 7. Okay, I think logically we got to give up on Ward 7. We don't have time to check out these areas. It doesn't seem the most promising ward to try to kill him in. And we've already put all of our resources into locking down an attack on Ward 9. Do the flip card messages you're asking about the bottom of these, they all say, this one says survey the Harkonnen Security Forces headquarters. This one says check out the art gallery for information. Survey the security protocols at the Golden Cage. Survey the military academy. So these are all just ways to check them out for possible attacks. Those we don't have time. Ward 7, we're not going to try to kill him in. Ward 2, the merchants gave us help, and we promised not to attack in Ward 2. So we are going to try to attack in Ward 9. I think we've already got all we need to attack. We've got access to medicine. We can poison the medicine that he's going to get given. I think that is enough. So in fact, I think we can kill him. Given that, we have not choose a location. So it doesn't even say like find the right, it says choose a location. So that's it. I think our primary task is done. We're choosing a location. At least we're choosing Ward 9, and we only have one place in Ward 9, which is the Black Tomb. But if we, or I guess just Ward 9, and then the doctor's office if we have to be more specific. And clearly it's given us enough information that we know how we're going to try to kill him with the poisons. Like we got access to the warehouse, the storeroom. So if we've got 2 or 3 time left, now we come back to these. Once we decide we're not going to look at the encounters on Ward 9. So here are the ones that appeal to me. Who landed at the airport? It's not one of our mission goals, but we've now got this information that someone is pulling strings, and we've gotten several clues in the last chapter and this chapter that's like, who's pulling strings, making the cartels go against each other. So I'm inclined to see if we can get some information about who's pulling that string. I don't want to try to turn Rakim Stern, so that's not useful to me. So who's landed? And now tracking Junus, it appeals to me quite a bit. And then maybe finding members of the resistance would be my third thing because we don't have that water. The only thing that scares me a little bit is that this is the one other Ward 9 card. So like, do we need to lock down the details of Ward 9 a little bit more? That's the part I'm not sure about. But we've got room, we've got time to do a little bit. Maybe we do all these. Does anyone have a preference for which one appeals to them most? Which one is likely to open up another option that we like better than these? I'll tell you what, we've been recording for 2 hours. Let's take our 5-minute break here. We'll come back. People in the channel can think about these options and what they like best. And we'll come back in 5 minutes. Okay, we're back. You're watching Co-op for Two. We're down to the last couple turns of Dune House Secrets Chapter 2. And we're trying to decide on which final encounters we should go on. Any comment from the comments? Let's see, Jonathan Warner is here. He says, Junis seems to me the most solid lead to try and find Da'anek. I also wonder if it's possible that he's hiding under everyone's noses at the military academy. Don't have time to investigate the academy, though. Yeah, I mean, the academy was tempting, but again, it's in the ward. What was the, let's take a look at that card. I agree, I think we do Junis. But let's just take a look at that academy card again, because it was awfully tempting. Let's see what it said again. Scorpion has visited Ward 2 almost every day. He goes to the academy. His bodyguards stay in the ground car, which is quite convenient. After he visits the military academy, he strolls about the stalls. I don't know. It doesn't. I don't think this is a place to hide. I don't think our people are in there. Okay, let's go follow Junis and see where she goes. Maybe she's got a hideout where the... Yeah, I mean, we should... Another reason to think that she might know something about the mercenaries. Don't forget her brother hired the mercenary. So it might make sense that the mercenary would get in touch with Junis after the brother was killed. Okay, so we have to do a test in order to do that. So here we go. We're doing this again. If we lose this, we're going to drop down in XP from 4 to 3. Which would be sad, but not the end of the world. Okay, here we go. Okay, that's another fail. We failed almost all of these tests. Back in it goes. Feels like we failed a little more than the probabilities suggest we should have, but so be it. The time goes down, and now we're going to look up card 201. And let's hope for something good here. Junis Sarko hides well, but making use of the red leaf symbol, you check with the locals and discover that her hideout is in an abandoned residence of a merchant from Ward 2 who was killed by the HSF. Junis has gathered a group of allies around her. It's a tight circle, but you make contact with someone who tells you that Rojas Genek plans to visit the hideout today. You sneak inside through a broken back door and hide behind an overturned table from which you can hear the conversation between Junis and Rojas in the hallway. So this is a snippet of conversation we're overhearing. The HSF controls my father's every step. They'll soon start following me as well, says the girl. Then why did you risk meeting with me? What is this important message? Asks Rojas. Thufir Hawat is supposedly on his way to Tel Gezer. It's about Akil. It must be. After all, he's being hunted by the HSF, and all of Tel Gezer has been alerted. There's silence for a moment, disturbed only by the sound of shoes shuffling against the sand. There's no one we can trust. Anyone could be one of the Mentat's spies, says Rojas, circling the room nervously. Let's run away. It's only a matter of time before the Harkonnens realize they no longer need Segur Sorko. My situation isn't any better. Part of the cartel has begun plotting against me, Eventually, someone will reach out for my power, and one morning I'm going to wake up in the middle of the desert. I can't leave my father at the mercy of the HSF. If I do anything that the authorities don't approve of, the responsibility falls on him. There'd be consequences. Morris and Ariana could be tortured and force us to come out of hiding, wherever that may be. We can set them free. I still have a few trusted people who... All right, we'll get to explaining some of this in a minute. Let's keep reading, though. Don't you understand? Junus cuts in sharply. You know I'm properly trained and I would never reveal anything I didn't want to. But Maurice and Ariana won't be able to endure Scorpion's torture. The best thing to do right now is to keep the situation from getting any worse. Adam wanted to save Maurice, but he only got the family into more trouble. We should eliminate Scorpion then, me and my people. It won't change anything. After Scorpion's gone, someone else will take his place. And then someone else. The problem is not Scorpion himself, but the whole of Harkonnen rule over the planet. It doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon. After these words, they both leave the building, and then you hear a ground car driving away. The room begins to fill with more allies of Junus. You disappear before someone notices you. Okay, so that was useless. Just a bit of flavor text, except... Is she suggesting... So Maurice is the hostage kid. Ariana must be the hostage little girl. So she's saying that Adam was trying to get them free. But then, look at this piece of information. Thufir Hawat is supposedly on his way to Tel Gezer. It's about Akel. It must be. So... I think that's the person who just flew in. I think the high up person is Thufir Hawat. If that's true, then we don't need to follow this clue. Find out who landed at the Karthag spaceport. Do you agree that that's who probably flew in? And that's who's pulling strings? Does that make sense? That that's who's pulling strings? And that's who flew in? We've got only one more time, unless we want to spend our time. And now I'm thinking we don't spend our time. Like, let's save that precious time for the final chapter. That's what I'm thinking. Jonathan says he does agree about Hawat. All right, so we're not going to find out who landed. Given that even if we're wrong about who landed, it's not a key part of our mission. I think we pass that up. Jonathan asks, is the art gallery under construction? Maybe Da'anik is hiding there. The ones left are check the art gallery, the golden cage. What was the golden cage again? Golden cage. Let's see here. Scorpion headquarters is 206B. What else do we have here? Construction machinery area. The construction machinery area was on this card 215 by the market. There are many taverns and gambling dens in the ward, each filled with drunken soldiers. The most mysterious place is the Golden Cage, a brothel for the wealthiest citizens of Tel Gezer, which is visited regularly by Scorpion himself. That's not going to be where our guy is hanging out. Scorpion has his own place in the gallery from which he watches the fights. He holds unofficial meetings. Yeah, I don't think they're hiding out in these places. I think these are just places to kill him. So I think okay, well we don't want to do another one of these tests because we'd rather not. Wait, did I not move this down? Didn't we do 2 tests? I think we did 2 tests. Yeah, we did 2 tests and failed them both. So we're down to 3 experience. So if we try another one and watch an execution, we could drop down to 2 experience, which would kind of suck. We don't think there's much use of doing this. So I don't know. I mean, my gut is telling me that we don't need any more of these locations. But my gut is also telling me that these aren't that useful. I mean, this is going to yield us something good, surely. The members of the resistance. Spending a token, especially a water token, has got to be useful. But, oh, I see. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I think we should do this. Not this one. I'm thinking we should do this. It's very costly. We're going to have to change one of our other... we're going to use our one-time ability to change a token into a water. But look, here's my thinking. This is in the ward where we're going to try to assassinate him. This is the prisoner area. So, like, it seems to me that if there's one place that we want to lock down and really get all our ducks in a row, it's this Ward 9 prison. If I had to guess, I'd guess we don't need it. It's going to be an additional way to kill him. But the fact that it's in this area, the fact that it's members of the resistance that might be carrying out this assassination, I think we do it. The only question is, what do we spend? I suggest we spend one of our subterfuge to change it into a water. So now I have to take this card here. We're going to use its one-time ability to exchange a resource token. So I can't do that again for the rest of the game. That hurts. But hopefully we'll unlock something. And now we're going to spend this water token. Sorry, I just spent the water token we just traded. To get card 207, which is our last card. So let's get card 207 and see what it says. Zarzur's contacts helped you find the Resistance hideout in the back of an old trading post. The entrance is guarded by a few inconspicuous beggars, but under their tatters you notice the shape of knives. When they see the symbol of the red leaf, they let you in. One of them leads you to a woman named Shamsi. The leader sits at the head of the table. She's wary at first. She doesn't want the red leaf to get in the way of the Resistance on her own territory. Besides, one of the fighters claims that someone from Zarzur's people sends reports as far as Gedi Prime. This information, however, is not confirmed yet, and ultimately Shamsi cares more about eliminating a common enemy than nursing mutual prejudice. Is this Samit? Is this confirming our fear that Samit is a double agent? Or is she saying that one of Zarzur's people is sending information to the Harkonnens? I think that's very interesting. Shamsi's people tried to follow Scorpion, but it wasn't easy. They saw him near the Golden Cage at the HSF headquarters, and when he visited the military academy. He's paranoid. He goes almost everywhere with his shield on. He deactivates it only in the academy or when he watches the dogfights, as if to show he's not afraid of anyone there. One of Shamsi's people was caught in the arena. Scorpion laughed when the HSF left poor Malik to be devoured by dogs. The best place to get close to him is the Golden Cage. That's where his safety is weakest, but getting inside would require a massive amount of spice. Besides, the place belongs to Damasu, and it's unclear who they serve anymore. Officially, the cartel is led by Desmaya Correz, but everyone knows it was Damasu who killed Adam Sorko. Why would they do that if the governor could make things worse for them? It couldn't be a coincidence. Someone has destabilized the city and controls Damasu from behind the scenes. It is rumored that orders for Desmaya come from Gedi Prime. When you leave the hideout, Shamsi makes a declaration. The local resistance movement is unable to attack Scorpion on its own, but if you decide to eliminate him, her people will fight beside you. Gain aid from the resistance. All right, so we gain 2 military, which we've got a ton of. It's time for us to go do some fighting. Here they all are here. We got 4 military. I would have rather gotten some water, to be honest. And this seems like it was the same thing that got us these 2. It's sort of like a different way to kill him now. If we tried to kill him at the Golden Cage, we could use these people to help us. So this doesn't directly seem to help us, but boy, it seemed to suggest. I'm starting to think Samit is a double agent. I'm just going to put a note on Samit's card. 207 double agent. And I think our guess about the Mentat is valid, being the one pulling the strings. All right, so before we submit our report and try to kill this guy, we could spend our extra time to do one of the remaining ones, but I don't think we want to. I don't think we have any good reason to do so. So that's it. I think we're ready. We're going to end the game here. End chapter 2. We're going to try to kill him by poisoning his stuff, his medicine. And let's see what happens. Any final thoughts while I go set this up to answer it? If you got any final thoughts, now's the time. Let's remember to look for anything it tells us to prepare for the next game. All right, are you ready for the final report? I don't know if we're going to need the headphones, but I'll get them ready in case we do. All right, status report. Here we go. Finish the game first. Are you ready to see the answers? Jonathan, are you ready? This is either going to be very disappointing or satisfying. Yep, I was thinking the same thing. Jonathan says, I'm a little worried that maybe we will not get full points since he might not know who killed him. Because Zarzur in the introduction said, I want him to know that we got revenge on him. I think you've got a very good point. Like, we're gonna kill him while he's unconscious. He's not gonna wake up. And he won't know who killed it. Like, he's gonna die in his sleep. That's too peaceful a death for him. But it's too late for us now. Okay. Oh, you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to take another look at these to see if any of these make more sense now. Destroy what people love and they will rise. Shields can provide a powerful defense. Some people in moments of foolish confidence tend to lower their guard. Okay, that sounds like it was suggesting to us that we should get him to lower his shield. Dog fighting. And that was another way we could have tried to get to him, but we didn't. We didn't. Those from Getty Prime suffer on Arrakis and need treatment. This is the one pointing us to the doctor. So these were all different ways we could have attacked it. Can I just point out one thing? Look at this. They're all from the different characters. The one that points us to the doctor, that's Arya Chorus. That's our character. So we ended up doing the one that she is most enamored of. So that should be a little bit of satisfaction there. All right, here we go. When you return to the Siege, you give Zarzur all the information you managed to collect on the Scorpion while in Tel Gezer. You reveal everything you know about his schedule, the places he frequents, and his general habits. After listening to your report, Zarzur asks for your proposal for the place and method of Jack and Rezel's execution. You recommend one of the following. Persuade Scorpion's slave into poisoning him at the Golden Cage. Poison Scorpion's medicine used in Red Koruk's practice. Attack Scorpion during an audience at the dogfight arena, or attack Scorpion during his visit to the Elrud 9 Military Academy, or you're unable to carry out the execution because you don't have the resources. So that's telling. That seems to suggest that because we got the 2 subterfuge resources, we can kill him at the doctor's office, and maybe because we got the 2 military resources, we could also do the one where we ambush him. But we definitely want to do the doctor one. Jonathan says some role-playing was accomplished. Yes, we role-played Arya Chorus by accident, and we were going to kill him with medicine. Now, imagine we got 2 subterfuge by the people to break into the cabinet. So I'm assuming it's now going to ask us to spend those 2. And if we don't have them, we would fail. But I'm not for sure. So let's see what happens. Poison Scorpion's medicine used in Red Koruk's practice. Here we go. I'm clicking on it. Zarzur agrees with your proposal and orders you to carry out the execution. The merchant Mazer's supplies provide you with everything needed to prepare a deadly concoction to sabotage Scorpion's decontamination chamber. But Red Kuruk's practice is next to the Black Tomb, right under the nose of the entire HSF army. Can you perform this successful subterfuge? Spend 1 mask or spend 2. Thank God it didn't ask us to spend 3, because we actually did have 3. And I was thinking, should we keep that third one and change a grain, spice into water? But we spent the subterfuge, but we kept the 2. So it looks like you might get different outcome, better or worse, depending on how many mask tokens. So we're going to spend 2 for sure, right? I mean, we'd like to keep 1, but we want the good outcome of this. So let's spend 2. Chapter 2 solved. But we know that's bullshit about the solved part. But let's read the epilogue. Because this will depend on using 2. So using 2, we are going to get the better answer here. Let's read it. You try to gain access to the practice posing as a patient in need. You put on a terrible, phlegm-filled cough that's so convincing that Kuruk advises immediate treatment. He's also persuaded by the fact that, despite your poor health, you saluted the portrait of Baron Harkonnen that hangs on the main wall of the practice. Kuruk asks you to take a seat as he prepares, and then walks into his office and shuts the door. You take this window of opportunity to sneak into the decontamination chamber room. On the side of the chamber, you notice a panel controlling the pressure and concentration of the decontamination substance. There are also tubes leading to the container from which the medicine is aspirated. You disassemble it and pour the poison inside. As you leave the building, Red Kuruk runs after you and says that he's ready to examine you now, but you say that you have some important business to attend to and need to reschedule. The next day, all of Tel Jazer is talking about the sudden death of Jaqen Rezel. At first, the suspicion would have fallen to the doctor, Red Kuruk, if it wasn't for the fact that he died trying to save the patient from the poisoned decontamination chamber. The new leader of the Harkonnen security forces is Kamar Masat, who is determined to find the killer of Jaqen Rezel. So we killed the Scorpion. His second in command took over, and now he's hunting us. So, I mean, that was pretty satisfying. It was satisfying that we role-played our person. It was a little... It was a little unfortunate that we didn't fulfill this person's wish that he must know that he dies at the hands of free Fremen. But still satisfying that we did it. I mean, it was definitely more satisfying than chapter 1. It felt a little bit like for sure, if we had tried to kill him one of the other ways, we could have used the 2 fight. The 2 fight here that we got from that last thing would have been another way to kill him. So we could have killed him more violently. And with 2 ways to kill him, it does seem like the game was basically you could kill him in any of these areas, and you would have had to work pretty hard not to have gotten one of those ways to kill him. Right? So I wouldn't say there was skill involved. In fact, you could argue that we overspent on our resources at the end. But I'm still not terribly. We didn't spend our extra time. We did get information. We do think that the Mentat is running things. Did we gain enough information on the whereabouts of the mercenary? Don't know. We got a little bit of information, but not too much. I am a little more intrigued to hear the end of the story, chapter 3. Like, I'm a little more invested in these characters, even though we didn't meet up with Ackle. And it was weird that it was referred to his name on the mission goal sheet without us, and we didn't find out that Ackle is the prisoner till later. That seems like a mistake in the game design documents. But I'm thrilled with this note-taking thing. I think this is the way to go with this game. I'm thrilled with my idea to the designers that I hope they follow through on, to not, instead of using these small cards in the next games, they should use full-sized cards that have the person's face and their name, background, and spaces for you to write notes. That just seems like a win-win, easy solution. It was fun to have these different maps to look at, but there was no spatial element to them, other than that we went to all the places in one ward. There was no real puzzle to figure out. There was no deduction, which feels like a missed opportunity. But it was still fun. Maybe, so we're under 3 hours. We're going to stop here tonight and not play Chapter 3, but I may play Chapter 3 tomorrow. Jonathan, are you going to be around tomorrow? You want to sit in on Chapter 3 tomorrow? But while I'm waiting for that, maybe we can do our experience now. We've got 3 experience. So I definitely want this one to give us unlimited spice. The thing is, well, let's reconsider this for a second. Here's what's sad. We're going to walk into Chapter 3 with 3 spice, with our normal existing skills, and the ability to change anything into subterfuge. Okay, so we'll have 3 spice tokens. We could, for 2 XP, get an unlimited number of spice, but are we really going to need more than 3 spice? For that same cost of 2, we could get 3 wild tokens. So an unlimited number of spice also gives us an unlimited number of subterfuge with our ability. But we already have 2 subterfuge plus an ability to gain another one. So we have 3 subterfuge, 3 spice, no water. For the cost of 2, we could get 3 wild. That seems like... yeah, I think we should get the 3 wild and 1 water. That gives us quite a bit of flexibility. The only other option the only other thing that would be tempting would be to get an extra time. That would cost us 2, though. But we already have 1 extra time. I don't know. It depends whether... Jonathan says, sure, he's going to see it to the end. All right, so we're going to play Chapter 3 tomorrow. All right, so this is a little tricky. We could spend our 3 on getting 3 wild, 1 water, which would put us pretty flush on tokens. Of course, we don't know what the 3rd chapter is going to need. But could very well give us an overabundance of tokens. Whereas we always need more time. So we could spend 2 to get more time. But if we spend 2 to get more time, then we would just get 1 wild card. 1 wild token, which would mean we'd have only 1 max water. That's a little scary. Any thoughts? We can either have like 3, 3 wild tokens plus a water. Or we could have an extra time and a water. What seems more appealing? Given that we have no water, we do have spice on our that we can cash in. And we have 1 extra subterfuge. Oh, wait a minute. Stop. We had to spend these 2. Okay, so then that makes it easier decision that we need our tokens. Okay, so we're going to upgrade our haggling here. Don't think we need to put these on the same person. All right, so that's 2 XP. So that gives us 3 wild tokens. And then, since we've already got the ability to gain a free subterfuge and the ability to get free this for our last one, we should probably get a water, I'm guessing. Although you could argue that we could use our wilds for water, and for 1 XP we could get 2 subterfuge. Maybe that's smarter. It would give us an extra token, just not quite as flexible. All right, let's do that. Let's get another subterfuge. It's role-playing a bit. It's more powerful. We get 2. All right, so that's it. We spent our 3 XP. We've got very little tokens here, but we've got tons of ability to generate tokens. We can generate 3 subterfuge, 3 spice, and 3 wild card, which will probably all be water, but we can decide. What would risk even be like in Act 3? Yeah, I don't know. Act 3 does flip this this over to a different mechanism than consequence. I'm not sure what it is. I just know it's different. All right. Let's wrap up there. I'll stick around if there are any questions. If anyone wants to chat, it's basically just Jonathan. But I'm not going to give additional thoughts on the game beyond what I've already said. I talked at length at the end of the first chapter playthrough about my thoughts on the game and where it kind of fell flat. I would just summarize by saying it was less taxing to try to remember things. It didn't introduce so many new names in chapter 2. I think Jonathan would agree. And with the reorganization of the names from chapter 1, it was much less stressful. I think, it's a game, it's a pacing mistake not to more gently, to just flood us with names and stuff in chapter 1. So I just felt the pacing of chapter 2 was a lot better, a lot cleaner. There weren't just a million things and a million names going on. And it was more enjoyable, sort of the idea that we were trying to find this guy to kill him. On the other hand, even less than chapter 1 in terms of deciding where to go. It felt like we just randomly stumbled upon what to do and were able to kill him in one way. It didn't really take any skill and didn't really advance the story. We got to kill Scorpion. He was built up a little bit as a real bad guy, but we had no real personal connection with him. The only we just saw him from afar. I mean, it wasn't that satisfying to kill him. It would have been nice in a game when you get to kill the bad guy, like you want to really come to hate him. And it would have been nice if we had some interaction with him first, if we expected to get some more satisfaction. Jonathan, any final thoughts from you? Otherwise, we'll stop here, and I guess I'll play chapter 3 tomorrow. I do see, I should take a breath, pause. For being an adventure prologue, and Chapter 1 felt more like following in the wake of a Kel adventure. Chapter 2 was a little better. Yeah, I agree. A little better in every aspect. It was more manageable, more satisfying. And but on the other hand, there wasn't any real mystery for us to solve, so it was even less of a mysterious thing. There was no real solution. I mean, we felt like we were figuring out where to kill him, but I think we're pretty much convinced that we could have killed him in any of those locations. And the only thing the thing would have done is told us a slightly different story, like one sentence different about how he was killed, or 2 sentences, how he was killed. I see that on the BGG forum, some reviews are starting to come in, and one review was posted that said very much what we said after the end of case 1. And that was from a Dune superfan. So we'll see if this seems to be the common reaction to this game. It's a little jarring. Even if chapter 2 is more enjoyable, it seems to kind of go against the idea, like, you're selling this. If you came into this expecting to solve mystery, you're going to be disappointed, right? Now but there was some mystery in chapter 1. But now in chapter 2, like, after having been convinced, okay, this isn't a mystery solving game, this is a story that you're riding along with that's going to unlock as the story goes on. You're going to read more about the story. Well, chapter 2 had no real story, right? Chapter 2 was like all set in this one moment where we're trying to decide where to kill him, and we're just tracking his movements to decide where to kill him. So in that sense, it's almost like, if you had convinced me that the game was worth playing because it was a unfolding narrative story that I was getting to slowly unlock, chapter 2 is like a little interlude where the story doesn't progress. That's a little confusing. Jonathan Warner says, I'd like to add, back to some thoughts on other games, I'd like to add that Gumshoe was the best at making me think about mysteries between sessions. It also probably contained my favorite actual mystery from all the games. Well, I don't know if we want to spoil that, but I would like to hear what your favorite one. I took like 20 pages of notes with Gumshoe, and the fact that they were all these sprawling, unfolding mysteries was very enjoyable. And there were some really cool, like, you got invested into those stories. And I agree. Like, the fact that they were paced out and over a course of 9 games really had you thinking about them. Yeah, so I agree. Gumshoe is very satisfying. Although I will say, the Baker Street Irregulars box by Dave Neal, the Sherlock Holmes Baker Street Irregular, had some really fun cases with some fun stories. Dave Neal has said that some of those cases divide people up. Like, some people have a good experience with one case and some people have a bad experience with it. So it's not a guaranteed great experience, but I really liked the stories in that. And there were some that required real aha moments that were quite fun. Very light on the files this game too. We got one little short animation about Getty Prime, and that's it. This is absolutely, though, essential. Get some index cards. Write down everyone's name on a different index card. Jonathan, any final words? Could there have been animations of the assassinations? Well, another missed opportunity of this game. This gets right back to the thing about if you're not going to be asking questions at the end of the game that are going to make people feel satisfied that they figured it out, you should be giving a psychological reward to the players for their choices. And having an audio video animation of the assassination that you chose which way to kill him. I mean, that just seems obvious. It seems obvious that you would want to give the players a reward for their decision. And that reward could be a visualization of what they made come true. And part of that reward could be building up that character that you kill to be more of a satisfaction when you killed it. And part of it could be what Jonathan just said, a fun animation, a rewarding, satisfying animation of this person being assassinated. And instead to read like a little paragraph, weird. And no question about the additional mission. Yeah, weird. Weird. I agree. I don't know why it wasn't even mentioned. And I don't know what the deal is with referring to him by his name, Akel. And that was not information we had gathered after our chapter 1. I wonder if some paths through chapter 1 would have given you his name, but why not just say find data on the prisoner? Why? That's just bizarre. Why are you giving us his name? Well, for what purpose? If you had said prisoner, we would know exactly who you're talking about. Just weird. I am looking forward to chapter 3, though. Anyone else jump into the channel at the end that want to make some comments? Pacing, Jonathan says, like you said, pacing issues. Lots of characters introduced in chapter 1. Some come into 2, but it zooms in on 1 just for him to lead the story. Yeah, I agree. That's a little odd. Yeah, that's a little odd. And we didn't... Do you agree that the... Like, I need a little more personal motivation before we assassinated this guy. I mean, he was presented as sort of the guy with the thumb on this town, but he was also told to us very clearly as taking orders. And we just didn't see him be enough of a bad guy to get real satisfaction for killing him. Like, we needed to be shown that more. We needed to viscerally come to hate him. And I don't think we did. We weren't involved. The person who got killed, this is like a storytelling class. The person who got killed, Adam Sorko, he was a bad guy. He's not someone we care about. He's from a cartel we don't care about, a family we don't care about that was ruling over this city poorly, was not a friend of the Atreides, and freed the prisoner to backstab him. So what? We don't care if he got killed. And this Scorpion guy who's on a mission to recover the weapons cache, like, we don't really care about that. We've got no personal investment in that. Jonathan says, I agree strongly. I would like more sense of personal interaction with all the characters. Yeah, that's another way to say it. I mean, we're taking these 4 characters, which by design are like bit players. The whole design of this game is like, here are these 4 bit players that got captured. They're not important to the story of Dune. They don't play a big role. They were captured and sort of pressured into helping out a little bit the Fremen. There's no involvement in them. They're not attached to anyone. No one cares about them. We don't really care about them. They're never in any risk. We're playing 4 of them, so we're not even, we're not even attached to one of them. They can never get harmed. They never... Seems like the prologue in chapter 1 built up Ackle. Then he's just missing in chapter 2. Yeah, and not only that, but Jonathan, we know everything we need to know about Ackle. He got sick working with weapons, and he knows the location of an Atreides weapons arsenal. And that's why the Harkonnen and Scorpio want him to find him, so that they can get the location of the weapons cache. That is not exactly super compelling for us. Like, we've got no personal interaction with him. All he is the location of the weapons. We're on a planet with a military industrial complex. All of Harkonnen planet, Getty Prime, is like a military production planet. And they're looking for weapons arsenal? And we really care deeply about that? That's not a good motivation for us. Yeah. And we're basically being blackmailed into helping these rebels out. But we have no personal investment in their fight. That's weird. The one thing, there's one little side mystery that's slightly intriguing, is this guy Samit, who's part of Zazur's force that we're working with, and the intimation that he may be selling us out, a double agent. Jonathan says, Chapter 2 was more enjoyable than 1, but I think part of it was not being buried under the names. A big part of it. An absolutely big part of it was not feeling overwhelmed with so much information that I felt like we were not making connections. Whether that's true or not, it definitely felt like we weren't able to keep in our memory all the different players. And so it felt a little bit hard to read a piece of information and know where to put that. And with chapter 2, with these cards and with so much fewer people mentioned, it just was a million times more manageable. It was also much easier for us to say, we don't need to go to these places. We had a lot of encounters that we didn't do that, for as a rare situation, we didn't find ourselves agonizing over the fact that we couldn't look at them. Like, this is one of the few times in all of the detective games where I felt like we don't need to see those cards. Like, they're not gonna change what we're gonna do. So it was a little disappointing that when we followed Junis, we didn't get more interesting information from her, more interesting options. I guess chapter 3, we're going to meet with that Mentat or interact with them in some form. It's a little sad that those questions, like the questions at the end, I completely accept the idea that you're not going to quiz someone on having figured things out. That is, I can buy into that game design issue. But I thought the idea was going to be that you were going to let people make some choices based on stuff they learned that would give them a little more, flesh it out, reward it a little bit more. And the fact that we did learn some information about the Mentat, like, why aren't there questions that help us flesh some of that out, that reward us a little bit for having unraveled some of that or provide us a little more information? Timeline element. Oh, that's a good point. So Jonathan says the timeline element would have been cool if it mattered more. So, like, it really seemed to me at some point when we were looking at these cards that it was telling us very specifically, he goes here in the morning, then he goes here, then he goes here. And that was one of those things where when I saw it, I was like, oh, we've figured something out. I've figured out that the timeline matters. And then, as you point out, didn't matter at all. Had nothing to do with anything. That's bizarre. I'd love to see I said this at day one, I would love to see a long discussion by Ignacy and the rest of the designers, Reimer and Pazetsky and Spera, and hear them talk about some of these issues. Obviously, I get the feeling that in these games you start out with lots of ideas and then you boil them down to what's a manageable set of encounters and clues, and I would love to see that put together. Jonathan says, in Vienna Connection, you could really map stuff out on the calendar. Yeah, there were time elements in Vienna Connection. There were spatial stuff. There were lots of putting together pieces of information and ruling certain people out and saying this person was here at this time, so maybe they were this person. Yeah, I don't understand why that was in these cards but not used. And my comments on day one hold too. Like the idea that we've got 3 different ways to kill this person. That's the whole of chapter 2. The entirety of chapter 2 was this idea that you're gonna decide which way to kill him. That makes no sense. Think about that. This gets back to the psychological thing again. If you want to make an interesting game that's not dependent on solving a mystery, but on the weighty psychological decisions, then have the player have to make a choice that has moral and psychological consequences. Maybe one way killing him means that an innocent doctor gets blamed and he's going to get executed. Another way killing him risks lots of other innocent people getting killed. Another way killing him costs you more personally, but doesn't risk any innocent lives. Then let the players struggle with the psychological and moral dilemma of choosing how to kill him. This was like, what area do you want to study for a way to kill him? And different groups will pick different things. I don't understand from a game design perspective why that's the path you choose. We really laid into the designers of this game, but I have 2 things to say about that. Number one, we heaped lavish praise on Vienna Connection, and I have defended Detective against complaints. And the other thing is they've got 2 more boxes of Dune that they've said are going to come out. I wonder if that's going to still happen. Presumably it's under development, but okay, so let this be a gut check before those 2 boxes get finalized. Take these comments as constructive criticism. Obviously, if I'm an outlier, if Jonathan and I are outliers, then you can ignore what we're saying. Otherwise, I hope they take it seriously and try to make the next 2 boxes more enjoyable. We've given them a bunch of concrete suggestions. I'll make one more that I think I said, but I'll be more explicit about it. This box feels a little thin. When you compare it to the stack of files in Vienna Connection, 100 pages, and you compare it to the massive amounts of online detailed reports in Detective, this just feels thin. Like there's half as much or less content here. And it feels like maybe they stretched one game into 3 boxes. And I think, this gives you a different perspective on those Sherlock Holmes consulting detective boxes, which have 10 cases in each box. Think about the content in those boxes compared to what's here. It really needs more. Jonathan says, sorry if I'm helping create a negative feedback loop. I mean, different groups are going to have different takes. I do hope there are groups that love this game. We will see their reviews on BGG. People will be playing this, and we'll see. Different groups are going to have different takes. And that's what happens when multiple people get together and talk about it. Occasionally you have different opinions and you balance each other out, and occasionally you're sort of egging each other on, encouraging the cementing of your opinions. And in this case, Jonathan and I are having the same reaction, although we should also say we're both encountering this game in an unusual fashion. You're encountering it by watching it, and I'm encountering it by playing these things live and having to read everything out loud, which makes it take a lot longer. And, so we're sort of encountering this in a weird way. But there'll be reviews by people who play it normally, and it'll be interesting to see what they say. And if you're watching this, obviously don't take everything I'm saying as the final word. See what other people have to say about the game. But I still had fun. I still had fun with Chapter 2, and I'm looking forward to Chapter 3. And we'll just wrap it up there. Jonathan, if you've got any final thoughts, otherwise I'm going to sign off. I'll switch over to the laptop to do my thing. I need like one button that lets me do this a little better. Jonathan says, thanks again for letting me play. And Jonathan, thank you for joining me. It has made it significantly more enjoyable to have someone to share the experience with. And what's ironic, the name of this channel is Co-op for Two. Normally Greg is sitting here joining me for games, but it's turned out that this has really been Co-op for Two with Dune House Secrets. It's just been me and Jonathan. So Jonathan, thank you, and I'll see you tomorrow. And it almost makes you think like Jonathan and I should have an on-air Zoom conversation at the end of this, but that might be pushing it. All right, we'll see you tomorrow for Chapter 3.